Skip links are very important. Most pages will have some sort of a menu system built into it. Notice that we have the home, contact us, and departments, and that's going to be on every page on this website. Let's say if it's a simple 3-page website. Well, every time a person using a screen reader will go to this site and go to another page, it will read over this. It'll say link home, link contact us, link departments. They already got that idea. They want to be able to skip right to the main content. That's the whole idea with a skip link. Some developers will put an invisible skip to main content or skip link or skip nav at the very top so that the screen readers will read it, but people who have normal vision will not be able to see it. This is not typically a good method. It's okay if people see that skip link or skip nav, and go ahead and leave that up front. Font sizes, it's typical for us to use font sizes that are the regular numbers, but that can limit someone who's trying to control their own screen and trying to blow up the web page. And so try to use relative font sizes such as small, medium, large, extra large. And that way it's going to give more capability to the user, for especially persons who are visually impaired. Color is very important. We all use it on our web pages. Be sure to use actual words that mean what the color is trying to tell most people. Remember, persons who are visually impaired or colorblind may not be able to tell the difference between green and red and may not get that communication. So go ahead and write the text within whatever it is you're trying to say. Try to use multiple methods to communicate something if you're doing it with color. Of course, this isn't the type of accessible table that we're talking about. There are different ways to make tables within Dreamweaver and other tools that tell a screen reader what that table is all about. The first type of table is a layout table, and when you're developing in Dreamweaver, you often use tables to make sure that columns lay out properly, graphics are placed in the right place, and everything looks aesthetically correct. If that's the type of table that you're going to be using, then when you insert a table, this particular window will pop up. You want to select the None option, and that's going to be strictly a layout table. And then you can put items into text or graphics into particular portions or cells of the table for the layout purpose. Obviously, data tables are very important within for expressing communication, for showing different tabulated type information. And so you want to select most likely the both option, notice over there on the right, and that will throw special code into the development of that web page, and then the screen reader will be able to identify the header and the row identifiers for each of those cells for persons who are using the screen reader. And here is some of the text or some of the code behind the scenes that will create that page. Notice the use of the scope tag. Now we're on to accessible forms. Forms are very common online, and we all use them all the time. When you do use a form, it needs to be created correctly so that a screen reader will be able to identify what field the person is actually on or focused on. So what you do is insert form, and then you select the type of object you desire. In this case, we're going to use a text field. Always give that text field a name, and you want to select the wrap with label tag, and then in the position, select the radio button before form item. Select the attached label tag using the attribute. This enables the user to select the radio button or checkbox by checking anywhere in the associated text. obviously giving them a bigger target if they happen to be using the mouse, which is, if they're using a screen reader, it's highly unlikely, but it is possible. Select the key to be accessed with the Alt key for quick access. Remember, those who are using the screen reader are probably not going to be using the mouse, so they're probably going to be using keyboard only. So be sure and make an Alt key, but try not to use that list there in front of you, the 1, 2, F, E, V, A, T, D, or H, because those are usually assigned to those special functions. Be sure and enter a tab index number. Now, most of the time this is going to be automatic, but if you are creating a form and you need to customize the way that's filled in particular tab spots, make sure that your sequence is correct. Certainly you want to click Yes to associate the accessibility tags. For acronyms and abbreviations, of course, for instance, when I'm making our website here and I mention IDS, I really don't want the screen reader to read that as IDS, and it will unless I define that as an acronym. And so the way you do that is with the Insert tag, and select HTML, text objects, acronym or abbreviation, and then type out the full name and press OK. This also helps from a universal design perspective. If somebody's reading the web page normally and holds their mouse over that acronym, it will actually pop up and tell the user what that acronym stands for. So in summary, what we talked about was kind of some techie stuff. I apologize, but we were using the Dreamweaver web design tool. We talked about alternate text and linking. Probably 80 or 90% of the reason that many websites are not at least ADA 508 accessible is that people put images onto their website and don't use the alternate text. That's just huge. Of course, we talked about color. Remember, some people can't see those colors, and so we need to make accommodations for that. The proper use of tables. We talked about forms, kind of a lengthy description, and then, of course, acronyms. All right, Alma, I guess I'll turn this back over to you.
To review the links for this presentation, go to the website, which is www.usm.edu, IDS, Bolt of Lightning. There's information about IDS and many of its programs at www.usm.edu, IDS. I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, Dr. White and Rich, for providing your expertise. For more information or to receive a printed copy of the guidelines for reporting and writing about people with disabilities, or the poster, Your Words, Our Image, you can contact me, Alma Ellis, at a toll-free number at 1-866-883-4474, or you can email me at alma.ellis@usm.edu. A recording of this webinar will be available as a link on the web page, as well as for those who want to review or for those unable to attend today. And again, that address is www.usm.edu/IDS/Bolt of Lightning. Thank you for making this journey with us today. We'll be sending copies of the guide and copies of the poster, Your Words, Our Image, to the dailies, weeklies, television station, and radio stations around the state with information about the link to this website and the resource website that accompanies this. Thanks again.